Hey, what's up everybody? Jesse here with Southern Reels Fishing, and I bought the new Garmin Kraken Force trolling motor and it died 3 weeks in. That's the story. So let's get to the nitty gritty. Start out with, I'm a charter captain out of Virginia Beach, Virginia. I actually live in North Carolina, but I charter in the Chesapeake Bay, the mouth of the Chesapeake Bay. I fish the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel, which is a true testing ground for any trolling motor. We have very heavy currents, sometimes up to 3 knots, wide open space, big waves, big conditions. It's, a battleground for trolling motor use. I'm out there full time this time of year and have been for the last 3 seasons. Got a lot of time on the water. I'm very experienced with a trolling motor. I've had several Minn Kotas through the years on my Key West 230 BR Bay boat that I have behind me here. I do run lithium everything. I have a 100 amp hour 36 volt all-in-one lithium battery from Epic. When I put the new Garmin motor on it, I upgraded all the new wiring to 4 gauge, new breaker, all new crimp connectors, the good kind. It's all professionally done. I'm very meticulous about my stuff, so no issues with wiring. Everything was brand new. Took the motor out, ran it for 3 weeks. Now don't get me wrong, I'm out all the time. In that 3-week span, I probably had 25 trips on that motor already. It has its issues, and we'll go over that later. But truth be told, turned it off one Friday, came home, parked the boat, didn't charge her anything, went back the next day for another trip. Client showed up, went to turn the motor on, wouldn't power on. Just dead. 30 minutes of troubleshooting. When I finally got it to wake up, what I had done is took the power lead to the motor off the breaker to jump to the battery to see if maybe the breaker was bad. Nothing happened. It stayed unhooked for a few minutes as I was checking other things. When I went to put it back on the breaker, I got a slight spark and the motor woke up. I was like, sweet, yes, maybe it's fixed. It just needed to be reset or something. So I hooked everything back up, went up front, it was off. Oh man, come on. But at that point, what I could do is hold the power button and it actually would come on. Some of the lights would light up and then it would just turn off after 10 seconds. And that's pretty much all I could get it to do after that, period. It just would not come on and stay on. Wouldn't connect to the remote, nothing. And sometimes some of the lights would light up, some of them wouldn't. It's definitely something in the control board has failed on this motor. So I luckily hadn't sold my Minn Kota, the Tarova 72-inch shaft that I've had forever. 3 years, no issues with that motor. Now I've had other Minn Kota Ulteras specifically that had massive issues. This has been a good one. I'm glad I didn't sell it because it's back on the boat now getting things done. Even though I do miss features of the Garmin, at least this one works. And it's been getting my trips done. I contacted Garmin the following Monday. This was this past Saturday when it happened, a week ago today actually. I have all Garmin electronics and had since 2018. Pretty much since the Live Scope was introduced, I've been running all Garmin. I've had multiple chart plotters. I got their best of the line in my boat. I've had a lot of support with them, warranties and stuff. They've always been amazing. Their tech support team is great. They have the callback feature when you call in, which is nice, so you're not sitting there on hold. I spoke to Ben. We were on the phone for over an hour going over all the specifics of every little detail of what happened, and also some other issues, which like I said, I'll get to at the end. And within that time period, he already had me set up with a full replacement, drop shipped that day. I had it at my house. This was Monday morning. Wednesday morning, it showed up at UPS, and this is it. Basically, sitting right here, ready to go on my boat. So that's fantastic. I had the box for the old one, boxed it up. They sent me a shipping label for that and didn't cost me a dime. I did have to put some money down to get this one forwarded, because normally how it would be is you send yours in. Once they get it, they send you the replacement. I have some things going on. I didn't want the motor showing up when I wasn't here. So I did the deposit and he discounted it massively from what it would typically have been. Because I've done this before with like replacement Live Scope transducers that I had to have. So I knew the process, and he definitely, considering the nature of the failure, worked with me greatly on it. He said it's a very unique failure. I'm the only one that's had an issue like this to where it died while sitting, basically. It went to sleep that night when I turned it off and never woke up again. No charging or anything, so it's very strange. So I have a new motor to put back on. Luckily it works with the heavy duty Minn Kota mounting plate that I had already, so it's pretty easy to swap it out. You do got to re-drill a couple holes, but no big deal. So when I get some time, I'm going to swap it back out. Now, the big questions everybody asks, comparatively to good stuff about the motor, it definitely has more power than my 112 pound thrust Tarova does. It's almost a full mile-an-hour faster in calm water, no wind situations. Almost 4.5 miles an hour on my 23-foot bay boat, which is pretty impressive. It's ultra quiet, of course, except when you got it all the way up on 20, you can kind of hear the prop wash, but it's so quiet, and most of the time I can't tell when it's on. I have to look at the remote. That's very nice, especially for fishing. The steering is very quiet as well. You can't really hear it steering, and it's variable speed steering, which means, you know, you turn left and right, it turns at a certain speed. If you're using the gesture control, which the remote, if you hold a button down, you can just do like this and the motor follows it. You can just steer by pointing. That's really sweet. I do that all the time. But the motor turns at different speeds to match what you're doing, so it's variable speed steering. And it also has a really nice feature to where if you turn too far in one direction, it'll quickly unwind like that, instead of like the Minn Kota did. It just turns real slow. It takes forever to unwind the cord. It just goes whoop, whoop, real fast, and it's done. So that's a very nice feature. The spot lock is definitely more accurate by far, although there are a couple issues with that I will explain. I love that on the screen of the remote, it tells you how far away it is from its lock point that it has decided upon, and which direction it wants to go to get there, with this little indicator that goes around the screen. That is awesome for my situation, because I stage next to bridge pilings, and I can quickly look at it and see if it's actually set where I want it to be, or if it starts acting funny, I can look at it and see that it's lost its lock and it's deciding to go 4 foot this way, which would ram me into the bridge. So all I got to do is jump out of anchor mode, jump right back in, and it corrects it. Very useful feature. Another very nice feature is on the remote screen, it's got an indicator that shows which direction the motor is pointing when you're in manual mode, so you don't have to be able to see the motor. Awesome feature, because I'm constantly having issues with that with my Minn Kota, because I got people on the front of the boat fishing. I'm trying to make fine adjustments in heavy swirly current to keep the boat still, and I can't tell where it's pointing. So that's a very nice feature. Also, the hitting hold feature, where you can just hold the button and point the remote the direction you want motor to take you, and it does it. It's fantastic as well. A lot of awesome things about this motor that I love. I also love that it connects to my chart plotter, which is very nice. I just wanted an all-in-one integrated system. That's the main reason I went with Garmin. Plus it has these features, so I've decided I'm going to keep the motor. I'm hoping that this was just, cross my fingers, a lemon. This one particular one, because like I said, I've had issues with Minn Kotas as well. There's some other things though that's very frustrating that I need y'all's help with. If you're a Garmin Force Kraken owner, I would like you to take some time the next time you're on the water, and if you can, test these problems, because it's just software problems about the way the motor handles. The most noted one for me is when you're in full manual mode and you're just pressing left or right to turn the motor. There's almost a full second delay from when you press the button to when the motor returns itself. That's very off-putting, especially when you're trying to make quick adjustments back and forth in current to keep the boat in position. That delay is very frustrating. You know, my Minn Kota doesn't do that. And I didn't even realize how frustrating it was until I put my Minn Kota back on, and the steering is so much more responsive to instant corrections than this one is. But what's even stranger is that if you just tap the button to steer in little increments, it moves instantly. It's only when you hold it and steer constantly that that delay is there. It's very strange. So that's definitely a software issue that I have pointed out to several techs, and Ben finally opened a case for it the other day to hopefully get it addressed. Another issue is the spotlight. The main reason I bought this motor is for being spotlight next to pilings. Now it has the anchor gain adjustment, which basically affects its 1 to 10, how hard that motor works to get back to its lock point when it loses it. Okay, I typically keep mine set all the way up. It was kind of similar on the Minn Kota. They called it a boat scale on the Minn Kota. Actually, I kind of kept it default on that one. So I got it all the way up on 10 on this. I'm set next to bridge pilings, and we got these big 6-foot round bridge pilings, like 3 of them together. And sometimes the current comes at an angle towards the bridge, and I'm lined up, but what happens is that current comes between those front 2 pilings. It grabs the bow of the boat and starts to pull just the bow of the boat over, say, to the left, away from the piling. my Minn Kota would just turn and correct and bring it back. This motor here doesn't do it. And I'm like, what the heck is wrong with this motor? Why is it just pulling away? And I know it's not a spot lock issue, because if I look at the remote, it's indicating that it needs to go back however many feet, but it's just steadily moving and it's growing. And the motor, for some reason in the software, is not programmed to pull it back to that point, even with the anchor gain turned all the way up on 10. I'm like, what the heck is going on? And it's very frustrating. That's the main reason I got this thing, was for the advanced spot lock. And it's pretty much useless in some situations, because they've got it set for whatever reason to where it doesn't have enough power available to it to pull itself back. Even though front and rear corrections are done very easily, it will surge and go right back. The left and right doesn't. I think the reason they did this is because they're scared they're going to throw somebody off the boat, but you know, I don't care. If I got it set all the way on 10, I'm pretty much expecting it to throw somebody off the boat. And I warn people, look, y'all need to brace yourself, it's going to correct in a second. It just won't do it. And this is a very frustrating feature for me, because it's one that I use mainly. So what I end up doing is, when it starts to do that, I'm having to use the jog feature and jog once or twice to the right to basically preload the motor to where it's already trying to go basically into the piling, but the current is counter affecting it and it's just kind of floating there. I shouldn't have to do that. It's got the technology to be able to hold its point. For some reason in the software, they just have it set to where it won't do it. That's a definite issue that needs to be fixed. And once again, the jog feature, the exact same problem exists with it. If you're anchor locked in open water and you press the arrow keys, you can move forward or back or left or right in 5-foot increments. If I tell it to go forward or back, it does it pretty abruptly because I have the gains turned all the way up. But if I tell it to go left or right, it just kind of sits there. It doesn't really move. And that's really frustrating as well, because I will be staged next to a set of pilings and there's weight coming in from a boat. And my Minn Kotas, I would just tell it to jog away from the piling once. It would do it within a couple seconds. The weight would come in and clear, and then I would just jog right back and we would go right back to fishing, just to keep the odds of hitting the pilings to a minimum. This motor here, when I tell it to jog left or right, it just sits there. It's just like, it doesn't move. You literally have to tell it 4 or 5 times to where it's indicating it's going 25 feet to the left before it'll finally turn and start to move the boat. That's a huge issue. It should not be like that. If you have anchor gain set on 10, it should move left and right just as abruptly as it does forward and backwards. That's the whole point of the anchor gain setting, and they just don't have it correlated that way. These are issues that can be fixed, that affect me every day, and a lot of you that have these motors probably don't even realize they exist because you're not into certain situations that I'm in with them all the time. But if you get out in the water and try it, at least try the jog feature. Now the cross current thing might be hard for you to simulate, but try the jog feature, left and right, to see what I'm talking about. Even with the gain turned all the way up, it just doesn't respond. It should move almost instantly if you're on 10. Same thing with the steering. Check that out. That's definitely a software issue. And unfortunately, it's been explained to me, and I understand this, that they're not going to put enough resources into research on why it's doing it, and the engineers being handed it to fix it until enough people complain about it. And that's just how it is. So he's like, man, just have your buddies call in, and the more calls we get on it, the quicker it'll get addressed, and the better motor will be for everybody. Now he's opened cases on each of these situations, so they do exist in their system. I know that for a fact. Just please, if you own one of these motors, take some time to call Garmin. They'll call you back. You don't have to sit on hold, and say that, hey, you watched this video and you went out and sure enough the motor is doing this, and you want to log a complaint so the software team can fix it, and we'll all have a better motor in the end. Now, yeah, these are frustrating things. They're not deal breakers for me because I've kind of figured workarounds for them. The only one that is kind of a frustrating thing is the left-right steering, but I just end up using the gesture control to get around that. But I shouldn't have to do that, especially on a brand new motor that's expensive as this one was. All in all, I'm going to keep the motor. I'm going to give it some time to work the bugs out. Like I said, I hope it was a lemon, the first one. And just, you know, I trust Garmin to some extent. They've had good customer support through the years, and I mean Minn Kota has as well. You know, the products are the products, and there's going to be good and bad ones. I'm definitely going to be keeping my Minn Kota for a backup. That's just a good idea for a captain anyway, or a charter service. You need backups for everything. So that's what's up. I love the motor overall. The first one died in 3 weeks. Hopefully this one lasts longer. And if you would take some time and help me to get these problems fixed, and just give them a call, log a ticket. That's all you got to do. So I'm Jesse. Peace out. I'll see y'all in the next video.